Welcome to the Timeless Marketing Podcast with Brian Kurtz, your connection to insights from some of the top direct response marketing minds on the planet.
Hey, it's Brian Kurtz here, host of the Timeless Marketing Podcast. Today's episode is a clip from one of the 2-hour calls inside Titan's Accelerator, my private mentorship program for direct response marketers. Before we get to that, I have one question for you. Do you have a marketing insurance policy? If you don't, you need one. And that's why I created Titan's Accelerator, which is one of the most giving communities and serves as the de facto board of advisors and marketing insurance policy for over 250 of the best and brightest direct response marketers, copywriters, media buyers, marketing agencies, senior executives, anyone in direct response marketing who is committed to growing and scaling their business. The bottom line, you don't have to grow your business alone. And you don't need to spend tens of thousands of dollars either. Titan's Accelerator is 1/10 of the price of most groups of its kind. I know because I hosted a group that was over $20,000 a year. If you want to see how Titan's Accelerator can help you grow and scale your specific business, go to briankurtz.net/help. That's BRIANKURTZ.net/help. And with a private membership, you'll receive access to the full presentation from today's episode, along with the Q&A and discussion that followed. As an added bonus, you'll receive access to a vault filled with many more private calls just like this one. Again, if you want to see if Titan's Accelerator is a fit for you with no obligation, go to briankurtz.net/help. That's BRIANKURTZ.net/help. And feel free to email me directly. I respond to every email with questions about this episode or just to say hi at brian@briankurtz.net. Now on to today's episode. Richard Rossi, I think you're there.
I am here.
Hello, my rabbi. How are you?
To the best of my knowledge, I'm well.
You look well.
Thank you.
So Richard, I think I've known Richard probably, it must be close to 25 years. At least we met 25 years ago, or definitely over 20 years ago. And when I met him, he was, he's always done amazing things, but he was doing these programs for basically high achieving youth. My son actually participated in one of them in Washington, D.C., where they did model senates, and it was phenomenal stuff that he was into. And then he's always evolving as an entrepreneur and as a marketer and as a human being, which are all good things to evolve as you move through your life. And Richard, one of his more recent endeavors was he developed the Congress for basically future doctors, where he it's the daVinci Institute, but he developed programs for high achieving youth, I guess juniors and seniors in high school, maybe even sophomores. And he does these big, arena events, 10,000 people, including their parents. He gets, Nobel Prize winners in medicine and STEM and all the science. And basically, he wants to change how we train our doctors going forward and change the world of medicine. And from that, hope I'm doing justice to this, Richard. I don't want to shortchange you.
I'm totally.
Okay, so then he moved in, and he still has that business, but then he moved into, something more for other than children. He wanted to do something more for adults, although the parents get very involved in the congresses, of course, but he wanted to do something using the board of advisors that he uses for the Congress and use them as the sources for what he calls the daVinci 50, which he's spoken about here before. And it is, I think it started using the word longevity and then it became life extension. And I guess, again, it's a kissing cousin of immortality of a sorts. So it ties into what Artie talked about. But I think that I wanted to have Richard on again because, the advances are happening so quickly, and many people here could not afford to be in daVinci 50. It's a very expensive. It's not even a mastermind. I think he calls it an alliance now, which is a better name. It's not a mastermind. It's beyond a mastermind. It's an alliance of the people who are at the cutting edge of health and life extension and supplementation and peptides and stem cells and just everything to do with wellness. We have a sickness medical establishment, and Richard is definitely part of the wellness establishment. And he's got a group of some of the top docs in the world, in all of those fields, plus entrepreneurs who are looking to get more from their lives while they're on Earth, and not just to live forever, but to live, as long as possible, because they're all making such a big difference in the world, including Richard. So you got to keep these people around. So, and then they'll help other people stick around, and those people can make their contributions even bigger and better. So that's sort of the background. I don't know what Richard specifically wants to talk about today. I just wanted him to do an update. So maybe, look, he's not going to give away the deep, dark secrets of daVinci 50, but I thought he could share some of the things that have really like blown him away, because he's such a student of all of this, and that maybe share some of the new findings, the new technologies, things that are propelling him and that group. And then if we have some time at the end, I mean, lack of a better way to put it, Richard is a badass marketer. So, he put those 10,000 people originally into that arena, through direct mail. And he still uses a lot. He does a lot much more online now, but I think he can share some of the marketing experiences if we have time. But I wanted to focus on the health stuff more, because I think that, again, if you have your health, you have 10,000 dreams or a million dreams or 1,000 dreams. And if you don't have your health, you have one dream. And so that's the premise. I'll leave, I'll mention it. Richard's title is Huge Health Breakthroughs, which will be available to you in 18 years. But I think some stuff is available to us now, and preparing for that is also important, like how you can set yourself up for the next 18 years. So hopefully that was anything else you want to add, and you can take it away, Richard.
Absolutely. Well, greetings. It's a joy to be with you. As as Brian said, we've been friends a really, really long time, a really long time. And as you know, Brian's one of the good ones, and I love the guy, and I'm just delighted to be with all of you, my tribe today. And this is going to be a very interesting discussion. And I got to say, it's also, how shall I put it? It can be emotional and emotionally unstable, because we're talking about life here, and we're also talking about death. And I just want to put that up front, because there may be some people in the group that are, especially for what they may be going through right now with a family member or whatever, it's just too much for them. And if that is you, please do what's right for you. We're recording this, so you can get to it when emotionally you feel you're ready. But I will say that the reason I started daVinci 50 was for me. I came to this realization that there was a moment where everything changed, and I realized that for the first time in the history of humankind, it was now actually possible to extend health span, which leads to extending lifespan, which leads to what our real focus is, which is age reversal. And you just have to stay with me and take on faith value. I can certainly justify all of this, that it is an emerging area in medicine that is becoming more and more real every day. And that's hard for us to internalize because we've really spent our whole lives believing that's not true. and that's like that is not just a paradigm shift. That is the paradigm shift. But I do want to start because Sunday is actually my 70th birthday. And I prepared some remarks for a party I'm going to be at Dan and Bab's house. And they're short, 5 minutes, because I want to read them to you because it really is a foundation for what I'm going to tell you about going forward. So I'm just going to start with that. So stick with me. I think you will find it well worth your while. I have reached the point in life where I possess the wisdom of the ages, and I have a few thoughts to share. I know this is a group that values truth-telling and plain talk, so I'm going to give you some. You may find what I'm about to say unsettling, but I promise you it will all end on a positive note. From my perspective, the only happy thing about turning 70 is that I'm still here and I'm feeling well. Why do I say this? Well, because of my age reversal mastermind daVinci 50, I have become really well versed in what medical professionals call the pathology of aging. And 70 is a tipping point. I've just entered the decade of accelerating, and I should put in there, extremely accelerating disease, decline, decay, and, according to the Social Security Administration, death for about 1/3 of us. 95% of us in this room, that includes this virtual room, who survive our 70s will be dead by our early to mid 80s. There exists no higher risk factor to health than aging. None. The 2-pack a day habit for 50 years doesn't even come close. The mantra at Strategic Coach is progress, not perfection. But there's one thing each of you will be perfect at, achieving 100% of the time, as has every other person who's ever lived. And you know what that is. So, congratulations to you. This is how I feel sometimes, Wicked Witch of the West, melting. Now, there are some people that say that genetics only accounts for 15 to 20% of healthy longevity. I'm sure your own life experience tells you that that is not true. Make it 70% plus. All my blood relatives died between 64, which is when my mother died, and 84, going back many, many, many generations on both sides of my family. So my only real hope of being alive for more than about 12 years, hopefully 10 of them healthy, which every person listening right now knows is just the blink of an eye, is the blossoming field of life extension medicine, which holds the promise of adding decades of vibrant life to our expiration date. It's all happening. It's all very real for the first time in human history. It's stunning. It's incredibly exciting. But the question is, will it be here in time to help me? And I honestly don't know. Certainly someone in this virtual room 20 years younger than me, who isn't freebasing and consistently does a few things right, which I'm going to get into after I'm done reading this, will benefit enormously. To that end, imagine the impact of millions of older, vibrant, independent people living 20 or 30 years longer and contributing their wisdom to humanity. Can you think of anything synthetic that you could ever imagine that could exceed the value of that? It's not talked about, but that is what the future holds. And good news, with populations dropping around the world, there's going to be plenty of room for all of us. You may know the story of Damocles, who was a courtier in the court of the tyrant Dionysius II in Syracuse, Italy, in around 360 BC. Dionysius once offered to swap places with Damocles for a day so he could experience the life of a ruler. During a feast, Damocles enjoyed the opulence, but then noticed a sword hanging above him, suspended by a single thread. And the sight filled him with fear and anxiety, symbolizing the constant danger and insecurity accompanying great power. It is the same with my life and your life. In his marvelous Pulitzer Prize-winning book, The Denial of Death, cultural anthropologist Ernest Becker argues that human culture itself is the buffer against the terror of mortality. He argues that if we were to fully internalize the inevitability of our pending annihilation, without first putting psychological defenses in place, we would become paralyzed or driven insane by dread. Much of our life, he argues, is spent subconsciously putting those defenses in place and managing them. It takes a lot of subconscious energy. Aging is the nightmare you never wake up from until one day soon, very soon, you vanish, never to be seen again. And that, my friends, is our collective sword of Damocles. So, is Richard going to end on such a massive cluster bummer? I will not. To quote the author and psychiatrist Irvin Yalom in his wonderful book, Staring at the Sun, Overcoming the Terror of Death, though the physicality of death destroys us, the idea of death saves us. Let me say that again. Though the physicality of death destroys us, the idea of death saves us. And with that in mind, here is the most valuable thing you can do this year, in my opinion. It's adapted from something I read in the Wall Street Journal recently, which quoted Ron Scheith, the billionaire behind Panera Bread, Au Pain, and Cava, and it's something he calls a premortem as opposed to a postmortem. He does it once a year at the beginning of the year, and the best way I can describe it is the Dan Sullivan question, which I think many of you know, but I'll get to it, addressed to yourself. So quoting from his book, Know What Matters, I imagine my body old and frail, my breathing shallow, my life energy almost extinguished. I try to evoke the feelings I want to have in that moment, a sense of peace, completion, and most importantly, self-respect. And then I ask myself, what am I going to do now to ensure that when I reach that ultimate destination, I've done what I need to do? And that is what I'm going to read Sunday night. And I hope it's taken in the spirit which I'm offering it and doesn't completely ruin what I'm sure will be a festive evening. But I feel like I have to share what I truly emotionally think of and feel at that moment. And that's my lead into today's discussion. And today's discussion is about how we can, with what we know today and what's coming in the next few years, dramatically extend our vibrant health and life. That's what we're talking about today. And is it real? It's extremely real. And it's what led me to create daVinci 50. Why? Because I knew that I wanted to be surrounded by the greatest minds in the world on this subject. Too much is happening too fast. And frankly, there's just too much noise, too many things that you cannot and should not believe. So our mantra at daVinci 50 is to be the CEO of your own health. And if you decide to do that, you are immediately in the 1% of the 1% of the 1%, because almost no one will do that in totality. And once you are, you only need to answer 3 questions at all times. What do I do? Who do I trust? And how the heck do I always get to the front of the line? Because what I'm going to talk about for the next few minutes is not going to be in your local physician's office for 10 or 20 years. I do not have time. Many of you, and I'm talking about anyone who's 35 years old or more, does not have time to wait. So what we need to do is we need to figure out where the risk reward is. Where is the risk relatively low and the reward could be very high? And there is some evidence, not evidence in the way that medicine defines evidence. And that's only one way, by the way. That's double-blind placebo control studies, which cost millions or billions. So I'm talking about evidence in a different way, things I see with my own eyes, things that are reported to me by people I trust. And if that is high and the risk is low, why the hell wouldn't I do it? And the answer is there's no reason. Now, before I start, I have a chart I want to show you and walk through. And it's the main chart we use at daVinci 50. It's the thing everything else is related back to at all times. And if it can't fit on the chart, we change the chart. We change the chart. But I have a special message for anyone that is a part of this group that is under 40 years old. You have the greatest opportunity imaginable if you're willing to focus, because you're just at the front end of this silent decline. The sweet spot for folks that actually start listening is 50. And then when you get above 75, if you haven't done any of this, have a Coke and a smoke, because honestly, it's a little too late. So with that in mind, I want to go ahead and walk through this chart. And first, let me just show you this one. Goes back to what I'm going to say on Sunday night that I read to you. Aging is the single greatest risk factor for all major age-related diseases. It does not matter how healthy you are. It does not matter how much you exercise. Control your stress, sleep, eat right. It's aging. But why? Why? Let's discuss. But this is the chart that we use at daVinci 50. I call it the 3-story house with a foundation at the bottom. So you have the foundation, health extension, the first story, life extension, the second story, age reversal, and then finally the third story, which is dramatic age reversal. And as I'm about to explain, if you do not do what's in the foundation, stop, do not go to the first floor, because the whole house will collapse. The whole house will collapse. So with that in mind, let's discuss. And let's start with the things that we at daVinci 50 believe are the foundation, the absolute foundation of all of this. Starting from the top left, detect and treat disease at stage 0 to 1. through physical examination, biomarkers from bodily fluids, and I'm talking about all bodily fluids, testing and imaging. And what this box emphasizes the importance of early detection. Traditional medicine has gotten to the point where if you catch it, whatever it is, at stage 0 or stage 1, the chance of a cure is enormous. Do you know why people die of pancreatic cancer? It's not because pancreatic cancer is so deadly. It's because there's no physical signs until stage 4. But if you caught it at stage 0 or 1, you would have tremendous options. Tremendous options. So what we do at daVinci 50 is we talk about all the biomarkers, all the testing, all the imaging that provides the data that you need to identify these health issues before they progress. My big message to you is, under no circumstances wait till your body tells you you're sick. In most cases, you are far down the line when that happens. The two big breakthroughs that I would recommend to everyone over 40 to do on an annual basis are a blood test from a company called Cancer Check Labs, Cancer Check, like a check mark, Labs, which is the state of the art. It's a simple blood test that is the best on the market in detecting cancer. And the second is a full body MRI. Remember, no radiation. And there is a company called Pronovo. I believe it's P-R-U or O-N-O-V-U-O. It'll pop up when you Google it. And they have places around the country that do this. And they're slick, very slick. I know the guy who wrote the software for the MRI machines. This is state-of-the-art stuff. So that's number one. The top middle is assess and optimize biomarkers derived from measurables like your Oura Ring. I also have another device that monitors my blood pressure 24 hours a day. I have this watch that tells me whether I'm going into atrial fibrillation or not. So the amount of inputs we get from our wearables, which will skyrocket, by the way, over the next just year or two, are remarkable. And by focusing on these health indicators, you get a tremendous snapshot of your body's condition. The kind of imaging that I just discussed with you, simple blood lab tests, of which, if your doctor will play ball, the insurance company will pay for most of this, can really help tailor a health strategy which will improve all of these vital bodily functions and reduce the risk of these chronic conditions. What's the result? Again, extended health span. Optimize and measure exercise, aerobic, strength, flexibility, balance, nutrition, sleep, and stress control. This is what your doctor will tell you at any annual checkup. Bob, you need to exercise. Hard exercise, anaerobic, in other words. Strength, which means maintaining your muscle mass, which is a huge part of the game as we grow older. Flexibility, critical, and balance. How many people do you know that died in older age because they lost their balance and broke their hip, and that was the end of it? You don't have to do that. There are people in my group that are not only standing while they work, but they're standing and on a balance board all day. And not just one balance board. They bring different balance boards in every day to make it more difficult. Nutrition. Here's our philosophy. Be religious, don't be fanatical. If you go by an awesome New York deli and you want like a pastrami sandwich, fuck it. Have the pastrami sandwich. Don't have a pastrami sandwich every day. There are many people, there are many things that will talk to you about good nutrition. Pick one. Sleep, ultra mega important. It's where all of the healing takes place, and stress will kill. Stress will kill. Good stress is, I think this guy is going to shoot me, or that lion is looking straight at me. That's really good stress. Daily stress, go to the last speaker. Meditation, breathing, all those things work. Even if you don't think they are, even if you don't want them to, they still do. But this is all crucial for maintaining overall well-being, preventing disease, improving your physical health, your mental health. Build a brilliant team of advisors that give you 360 degrees of support for every goal and aspiration. At daVinci 50, we have put ourselves in a circle in the center, and then we have boxes outside of that, and we list every single person that provides us that 360 degrees of support. And that could be mental, physical, medical, spiritual. All of them are there to support you. And then by having breakout groups, we find out where the holes are. And the next time we do it again, and it's more and more lush and more complete. That is being the CEO of your own health. So that completes the foundation. Those are the things that you either do them or let's not talk about anything further.
Thanks for listening to the Timeless Marketing Podcast with Brian Kurtz. Visit briankurtz.net and click podcast at the top of the page for a full transcript and show notes. If you're interested in working with Brian personally inside of Titans Accelerator, go to briankurtz.net/help to see how Titans can help you grow and scale your business. That's briankurtz.net/help.